Hebrew, the word compassion, to suffer with, is similar as the word that is used for the pain of birth. There's an element of creativity in life. When we are with people in conversation that we can trust, then that conversation holds the possibility of new life. That's wholly different than taking a stance or forming an argument, a repeat of the past, or a discussion that ultimately has no hope. I think of Ezekiel 36:24, along with the scripture that you read from Matthew. I will give you a heart of flesh. The problem with flesh is that it's vulnerable. In these tense times, in the verse from Matthew, we may feel harassed, as it says, or helpless, and we are tempted to make our own hearts into a castle with a huge moat around it. Have a heart of stone so that we're not hurt or disappointed. We can look around and see people who have hardened hearts. As I look at my 18-year-old son gazing into his future, I wonder how he feels. If you love someone, you suffer with them, you feel with them, you want the best for them. Civil rights activist Reverend James Lawson speaks eloquently about being a people of compassion. He says, there is no other way. It cannot be done with hatred. It can only be done by people who have compassion and awareness of their own lives in the light of creation. It cannot be done by insulting other people. It cannot be done with violence. We 300+ million people of the United States can be healed of our fears and our animosities, our hurts and our pains. But that can only happen if we adopt a compassionate perspective, daring to put the issues on the table in front of us, no matter the pain, walking through them and putting together the ethos and principles that can create in the United States a new earth and a new heaven. In reflecting on this series and the word compassion, it seems hard-heartedness and being indifferent are the opposite of moving in the world and willing to feel with our neighbors. If we're caught up in fear, anger, or resentment, it's hard to feel with someone else. We act as if we are sheep without a shepherd, as Jesus said. There are too many barriers around our heart, and the problem with barriers is that, yes, they keep out the bad, but they also can keep out the good. Jesus encourages us to be a people of compassion. Remember when the woman caught in adultery was at the threat of being stoned, Jesus shows compassion. Let those without sin cast the first stone. And then he bent down and he drew in the dirt. He took the spotlight off of her because in that moment she was likely absolutely petrified, and he could feel with her the circle of hatred and animosity. Once the crowd dispersed, Jesus asked her, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one condemn you?" And she replies, "No." And Jesus says, "Then neither do I. Go and sin no more." We all want to belong. We want to be seen, heard, and understood. As Brene Brown reminds us, belonging is in our hard wiring, and in the absence of belonging, there's a lot of suffering. And I would say that a lot of people have learned to leverage that well in terms of offering belonging in exchange for certitude and moral outrage. To understand people is the first step in being able to feel with them. Compassion gives us the courage to try to understand the other side's point of view, even if we don't agree with it. As you engage in the follow-up conversations, be daring in taking an internal inventory of where barriers, anger, resentment maybe crept into your hearts, maybe even into your relationships. It's my deepest hope that we return to a place of compassion for one another in this season of introspection.